We all know that social media is about self-promotion, and finally we have a guy who's written a book about how to promote yourself. Dan Schawbel is a young East Coast guy. He's got a book coming out next week called Promote Yourself. Dan, I've always wanted to have you on the show. Welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Hey, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm a big fan of your work as well.
You're not really, Dan. You probably hate what I say. But anyway, what I like about you is that you do promote yourself. Your name's out there. You're a very impressive young man. I can say young man. Are you a millennial? One of these millennial types that we hear about?
I'm a millennial. Millennials born between 1982 and 1993, so students and young professionals right now.
So we got a large millennial audience on TechCrunch. We'll talk about millennials later, but first of all, Dan, talk to me about this idea of promoting yourself. Why is it so important? Why have you written a book about it? And of course, most importantly, how do we use the internet to promote ourselves?
Most people really will have the book title wrong. So Promote Yourself is all about driving your career, being really, not taking advantage of your own talents and abilities and really pushing them out there and really proving yourself through working really hard consistently and over-delivering for your manager, for the people around you, so they want to invest in you and they want to talk about you positively to other people. So Promote Yourself is all about personal accountability and really taking ownership of your career.
So it's not about lying on Facebook or Twitter.
No one else will invest in you unless you invest in yourself first. And you can ask any entrepreneur. It's the same thing with entrepreneurs. If you prove yourself first, if you prove your product works first, then VCs and angel investors will want to come your way. And it's the same thing in the workplace too.
So promoting yourself is telling the truth about yourself.
Yeah, you have to be authentic about yourself.
But Dan, you're also the guy who's one of the people introducing the idea of the self as the brand, and that our life's work is building our brand. And surely the great brand builders are the people who, they may not lie about their products or themselves, but they tell a very compelling, seductive story.
Absolutely. I mean, branding is all about storytelling. It's about explaining who you are, how you got to where you are, kind of what your vision for the future is, how you're going to get there, and really backing that up with proven results and building a strong network that's going to support you. And that's really important. And that's part of how I've gotten to where I am today. Is I always help out other people first before asking for anything in return. And through reciprocation, people will want to support you in your career and everything you want to do.
So Dan, we had perhaps the older version of Dan Schawbel on the show a few weeks ago, Brian Solis, who kind of gave me the impression he thought social media was dead. Do you think it's dead? Are sites like Facebook yesterday's news?
I don't think it's dead. I just think it's much more competitive than ever before. When I first started off in 2006, if you were to start a blog, people would just organically find you. Now, most of your work is actually not on blogging. It's about making sure people see it and standing out from the crowd. And that's why I always have told people you want to take a niche. You want to be really specific with a topic that you want to master and focus on, and then find the right audience that's going to benefit from it. So going for a small group of people who are, let's say, doctors in Boston, and just putting all your energy and focusing on those individuals. And that's where you're going to break out, and that's how you'll stand out online.
There's a lot of original research in your book. We all know about the traditional social media sites. Tell us something new. Tell my audience something that they don't already know. And this is a Silicon Valley audience, so they know a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so I partnered with American Express for an exclusive study on the book, and we found a few things that would surprise a lot of people. The first one is social media is really not respected in the workplace. Your social media skills, they're just not prioritized. Employers are looking for soft skills over hard skills, and definitely over social media skills. So your ability to use Facebook and Twitter and all these tools for business it's still not supported by the organization. There was a study out the other day where it says about 74% of executives are not even on these social networks, so it's still not at that level yet. The other thing...
So you're saying that when you're applying for a job, you shouldn't admit that you use all these social media tools?
It's not going to help you out as much as you think it will. Employers are really looking for people who have good interpersonal skills, can prioritize work, build relationships, resolve conflicts. things that you wouldn't normally think would be important are so much more important now because it's much easier to find people with the right hard technical skills.
Dan, can you combine that with a sophisticated knowledge of the internet? Or are geeks, by definition, struggling to deal with interpersonal skills?
We found through another research report I did earlier this year that 40% of students feel like technology has hurt their soft skills. So I feel like, especially in my generation, a lot of people are having trouble with soft skills because they're relying too much on technology. You go out to dinner, you'll see two people who are on a date, but they'll be texting each other, and it's really hurt interpersonal skills, and that carries on to job interviews, which makes it harder for people to get jobs. And then once you have the job, it's harder to get to the next level because soft skills become more and more.
Dan, how old are you? Without wishing to be too personal.
29 years old.
So you're a millennial, and I know that a lot of your book focuses on millennials. We have a lot of millennials in the audience. Tell me what you found about millennials that's different. You guys have a bad reputation out there. You're all considered to be shallow narcissists. Is that right? Not that I'm accusing you, of course, of being a shallow narcissist.
Entitled, lazy, all of these different
living at home.
And a lot of it stems from...
Are you living at home, Dan?
I'm not, but
okay.
Yeah, you saw the study by Pew Research that is like 44 million are living at home or something like that. It's because of the economy it's really hurt everyone.
So it's not the millennials themselves, it's the economy.
That's had a huge impact. So it's funny because when I was growing up, I was on several soccer teams and everyone did get a trophy. So that's very accurate, and we were all told we were special, and we have helicopter parents.
I thought those were trophies at the back, or they look like books. So Dan, I know you also done a lot of research about what companies need to do to find and keep smart millennials in their companies. What advice would you give on that front? What did you find in the book?
So many different things. They want a collaborative setting. They don't want to work in cubicles. They want flexibility in two different ways. First, they want to be able to work from home or co-working spaces, which are really taking off. And second, flexibility with like entrepreneurship. So like with Google's 20% rule, being able to spend 20% of your time outside of your job description, which more and more companies are doing too. They want an entrepreneurial culture. So in a sense, big companies are competing with millennials who want to start their own companies or work for a startup. And that's one of the things I fear.
Who doesn't want to work from home? Who doesn't want collaboration? What do the millennials offer that my generation doesn't? What's so special about them?
I think what it comes down to is being able to collaborate in groups, solve big problems.
You mean my generation can't collaborate in groups?
But millennials, that's all they do. And they use technology, and they're always connected. And so they're able to solve problems faster than ever before because they're always on their phones. They're always touching base with friends, coworkers, and different people, different experts, and different people in their lives. So they're able to come up with answers and solve bigger problems. And they're all about giving back. They want to work for a company that gives social causes. So you see a lot of young millennials getting involved in nonprofits because of that.
Is your book written for millennials or for old geezers like myself?
So both books, the first book was Me 2.0, this Promote Yourself. Both are written for millennials, but with advice and information that could benefit everyone. We're always told in publishing, you got to go for the niche, but have information that everyone can embrace at some level.
So Dan, the final question, I always end my interviews on what, in my mind at least, is the most interesting question. You've got your finger on the pulse of millennials. You know them certainly better than I do. You've just written a book in part about them. But finally, what comes after the millennials?
Gen Z.
What kind of people are now, 11, 12 years old? Who follows the millennials?
Gen Z is the next generation that's coming up. And I'm going to do more research on it next year, but basically, they don't use business email or email in general. They'd rather use the social networks to communicate, and that's going to really shake things up in the workplace because, as we know now, because millennials are already, the interns and the entry-level positions and rising to managers, 15% are already managers. Once Gen Z enters the workplace, then how are millennials and older generations going to connect with a generation that doesn't use email? And that's where things are going to get really interesting, and it'll be a really good study next year to pay attention to.
So I think we've got an early preview of Dan Schawbel's third book about Gen Z. I don't know what he's going to call it. But Dan, I hope you come back on the show when you finish that book to talk about this, Gen Z. And best of luck with the book next week. Promote yourself. Not that I'm an expert in that. Dan Schawbel, the author of Promote Yourself. Real pleasure to have you on TechCrunch TV.
Same. Thank you very much.